So again, thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Heather Vedot, the Executive Director of Male Contraceptive Initiative. And this is, I think it's the first installment of our 2023 Lemonade Stand webinar series. So this initially started back at the start of the COVID pandemic as a way for us to connect with our colleagues who we were missing at meetings and other in-person engagements. And so it's always been set up as an informal sort of chat setup. So we are really delighted today to turn everything over to our colleagues to talk about fellowships. So the genesis of this was we collaborate with CAMI in the Initiative for MPTs, multipurpose prevention technologies. Specifically, Bethany Young-Holt has been a great colleague and partner of ours from the get-go of MCI, really always looking at how we can support and help each other's organizations. And we have the pleasure of being part of the SAC for IMPT and CAMI. And back in December, we had a meeting where all of us were talking about how much we enjoy student engagement and how grateful we are for our fellowship programs. And we decided one way to really try and bolster that would be to have this webinar to really spread information about what's out there and the different ways that people who are interested in contraception or multi-purpose prevention technologies or reproductive health in general could really come into the fold and get some support for the work that they do. So I am going to hand things right over to Bethany, who will be your host and moderator for today, and she will introduce you to our panelists. A bunch of just quick housekeeping things is, thank you. Emmanuel asked some great questions when we first got started. The session is being recorded today, and the video will be made available to everyone. We will be sending, there's not slides again. I think we have one set of slides from Paul, but we'll be sending out a document that has all of the necessary links to the different fellowships after this meeting. And you can always reach out to any of us if you have any questions as well. I think, as far as questions, if questions are coming to you during the presentations, if you can put them in the chat, that would be great. And then once the presentations are done, we'll open up the floor and we will do a mix of addressing the questions that are in chat. And then if you can just raise your hand, we can also have just question and answer directly. So I think I covered everything. And without any further ado, I am going to hand it over to Bethany. Thanks, Bethany.
Hi, Heather. Thanks so much to you, Heather, and to the MCI team for hosting this webinar, and really to everyone who's joined. It is so great to see that there's so much interest in hearing about fellowship opportunities, especially in the areas of contraceptive development and multipurpose prevention technologies, or MPTs. For those of you who might be newer to this area, MPTs are products that are in development that can provide combined prevention from unintended pregnancies and or HIV and other sexually transmitted infections in different combinations. So we have a really terrific lineup of panelists who will be sharing information about the different types of fellowships and training opportunities that are available at local, national, and global levels to help students and others, including mentors, gain exposure to these different types of opportunities. So many of you have joined this webinar who are interested in potentially applying yourselves for these opportunities, and others may be interested in these programs to share with your students. So, we really are hoping that, after the panelists have their brief presentations, that this can be an interactive discussion. So if you can type your name into the chat function and enter your affiliation and why you're interested in this webinar, perhaps if you're a potential trainee or a mentor or just sort of curious, that would be great. Then we can start to get to know each other. And as Heather said, just you can type your questions in as well. So with that, I want to welcome our panelists. So we have Dr. Logan Nichols, who is Research Director and Chief Scientific Officer at the Male Contraceptive Initiative, or MCI. And Logan has a PhD in biochemistry and did his postdoc work at the University of Pennsylvania. Also excited to have Dr. Paul Webster, who is a senior scientist at Oakcrest Institute of Science in Pasadena, California. His PhD is in cell biology, and he also has extensive experience mentoring students, starting at the high school level through community college level. And I'm also really excited to have Dr. Lee Allen join us. She is a PhD trained biomedical scientist and is currently a program officer in the contraceptive research branch at the National Institutes of Health, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, our NICHD. So with that, I want to just again, welcome everybody. And in terms of the format, as Heather said, after the discussions, we'll be opening it up to question and answer. And the recording, we will have a recording available on the MCI and IMPT websites. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Logan.
Excellent. Thanks, Bethany. So hi, everybody. I'm Logan Nichols. I'm, like Bethany said, I'm research director at Male Contraceptive Initiative. And, I think we're all here because we're interested in promoting the idea of like bringing young people into science and supporting training development. Within MCI, that's something that we've considered really important because male contraceptive research, our wheelhouse, as it is with MPT research, with contraceptive research more broadly, it's a small field. And it's important for us to not only support the growth of the field and nurture new people coming in, because of course, as the luminaries retire and begin to go away, we have to create self-sustaining, human resources. But at the same time, it's important for us to shape the field in a way that we think promotes the field as well. That means diversity, that means bringing in new opinions, different ideas, different backgrounds, and really trying to build research capacity in certain ways. And so within MCI, we've taken a few different approaches to try and make this happen. We really consider our focus to be in the graduate and postdoctoral sort of range, more promoting research fellowships, but we also have a number of funding efforts that are open to undergraduate researchers, people that we think, we need to snag them real early and get them thinking about contraceptive research before they even consider, say, a graduate degree, or find ways that with an undergraduate degree, they can still contribute to the field. So to briefly go over our programs, we kind of scale them in terms of their not only their relevance to, say, college versus graduate versus postdoctoral, but we try and make sure that their scopes are broad as well. So for example, in our trainee program that is for graduate students and postdocs, it's a research-based fellowship. Applicants are asked to write a proposal. That proposal is then reviewed in a way that's very similar to an NIH study section. It gets you feedback on your research. It gets you practice writing grants. It really tries to be a formative experience for graduate students and postdocs who may be going on to academic careers or places where they'll have to write grants, do forms of scientific inquiry. But we also have support mechanisms in the form of what we call our success grants that are not necessarily proposal driven. Those are other ways that we can try and provide support for the community to encourage professional development is the main goal of what we call our success program. That can mean students can apply for support to attend a conference, to present their data, to go have a collaborative research experience with another institution somewhere. We've even helped someone print their thesis whenever they needed some extra funds for that. It's a program that's designed to be very flexible and very open, such that we can help people achieve their professional goals and also decrease the financial gaps between graduate students and what we would consider success. We also, I should mention, have our undergraduate funding programs. Our trainee success program is open to undergraduates to a certain extent. And then we also, through our youth advisory board, have an undergraduate research grant where it's a small amount, but undergraduates encouraged to make connections within their institution, form some kind of novel hypothesis, and find a way to investigate it. These are ways that we try and bring experience into the field to create experience for people, and also to try and harness enthusiasm. I can't tell you how many times that we've had someone reach out to us and say, I'm interested in this field. I want to be a part of this going forward, but I don't quite know where to start. Or alternatively, they'll say, I have an interesting research question, but I don't have anyone that can help me answer it. Or have you thought about blank? And these sort of opportunities are designed to try and get people to think about blank in a way that can actually create some data, create some interest, and get them thinking more about the field. Broadly, I should say that for our opportunities, the success rate is quite good. I think our most competitive program is our graduate and postdoctoral fellowships, and I think somewhere on the order of probably an average in the 25 to 30% success range, which as far as fellowship applications go is pretty good. We also, I think, as far as how we structure these programs, they're open to international applications as well as domestic. We have really no restrictions on the type of person that applies, as long as they meet the individual criteria for the program, which for a graduate and postdoctoral fellowships is a graduate student or a postdoc at a accredited institution, that kind of thing. But generally, if a application falls within the scope of non-hormonal reversible male contraceptives, ranging from basic science to product development to general support and advocacy, we're interested in hearing more about it, at least. And I can say that those are generally eligible activities for our programs. And I think that this was said earlier, and I hope it gets said again, but just to make sure I'm the first, it's important to apply, right? You won't win unless you apply. And one thing that I want to make sure that I stress with our applications too is that our applications are, as a nonprofit organization, as a flexible organization, we try and help you with your application. Similar to program officers within ICHD, with funding efforts, we're happy to meet and talk about funding efforts. But I should also say that one thing that MCI can do is that we can provide feedback on specific areas of an application. I'm happy to talk with you and help you grow your network, that sort of thing. That's an important thing that I think fellowships and opportunities give you that isn't it wasn't effectively communicated to me when I was a graduate student, I'll put it that way, is the importance of networking and the ability that these opportunities can give you to network and grow your space. There are many soft benefits to applying to fellowships and getting these travel grants and opportunities, is because you get to make connections with people who talk to a lot of people in the space. And because of that, the people that you apply to, the people you try to network with can help you make connections, can help you understand where maybe a lab you might go to for a postdoc, or maybe if you're an undergraduate, labs that might be interested in taking you as a graduate student, or maybe you're interested in brainstorming some research directions. I know that all the panelists here are scientists in some form or fashion, and we all like to talk about science and bounce things around. So just to say that there's a lot of soft pieces to applying to fellowships that I think are useful. And I think that's broadly applicable to a lot of fellowships. A lot of people that act in a program officer type role or manage these sort of fellowships are interested in getting to know you and your research interests. So don't hesitate to make that connection and begin to, I guess, lean on it as a network instead of just a way to get your research funded. I don't have anything else really to say about our funding opportunities, except that, like I mentioned, we value diversity. We value the importance of bringing new folks in, and male contraceptives as a field need to grow. We need to bring more people in, more interest in space, because as I'm sure is the case with MPTs, there's more work to be done than there are hands to do it. And of course, the more people we bring in, the more interested it displays in the field, the more hopefully funding things begin to attract as well. And so I think that our program is designed to very specifically fit in this wheelhouse of male contraceptives. And it's supposed to help expand our world. But at the same time, these worlds, they touch each other in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of overlap in the Venn diagram. And so we're hoping to grow our spaces as a whole and try and find the parallels between all of these different pieces. I'll stop there and move on.
Logan, thank you so much. Your program is so awesome, really. I thought I knew a lot about it already, but I learned a lot more. It's really, I think you made a couple really great points I just want to echo, and that is that, you know, in terms of success rates, you know, you won't succeed in getting it an app unless you apply. So I think that's a really important point. And it was also really great to hear that these are open to, you know, people from all over the place. So thank you for that. And I am now going to hand it over to Paul. Paul has some slides too. So
I have some slides, yes. Good morning. My name is Paul Webster, and I am based in Southern California. So it's still very early here. I would like to talk about the programs that we hold, that we are running at Oakcrest. But I must stress that we are a very flexible group. We're a small multidisciplinary group of scientists, cell biologists, molecular biologists, chemists, and we are able to provide, we can host people who can actually make it to our institute. We are not a funding agency. We don't provide money. We are at the receiving end of funds. And as you can see at the bottom of the first slide, there are a few, sorry, can we go back? So at the bottom, there are a few local organizations that help us with our programs. We've got the City of Monrovia, Citrus College, Boston Scientific, there's a Workforce Investment Board, City of Pasadena, the Jet Propulsion Lab, which is in Pasadena. We are based in Monrovia, which is east of Pasadena, and we've had generous fundings from the Rose Hills Foundation to provide fellowships for students. So the next slide, please. We are small, we are multidisciplinary, and because of that, we are very flexible. Next slide. Our location is relevant to our programs because we are in the northeast corner of LA Basin. LA Basin, that's where the smiley face is in Monrovia, and just quite by accident, we are 15 miles away from Pasadena City College in the west and Citrus College in the east, which are two Hispanic serving institutes. They're community colleges in our local area, and this means they're two-year colleges. They award associate's degrees, and the implication is either the students then go off and find a job using their associate's degree, or they transfer to a four-year college, get a bachelor's degree. Most of the students that we work with they eventually go to the four-year college, get a bachelor's degree, and many of them move on to do a PhD. This whole area in the northeast corner of Los Angeles is it has a large community of Hispanic people. For example, the Monrovia Unified School District, the minority population is 8%, and an indication of low income is whether the students get a free lunch, and the Monrovia Unified School District, about 40% of the population are eligible for free lunches. So we have a large Hispanic population in what is considered to be a very low-income, poor region. And we are focusing on this population because they generally are not traditionally the people that move into, they don't go on for four-year degrees, and they very seldom join STEM-related careers. So we're hoping to get some of these very talented people interested in science and also interested in some sort of biological science. Next slide, please. As I said, location is relevant, and as you can see with the first column, that most of our population in the local area is Hispanic, and we are trying to encourage this population to join us and learn how to do research, how to enjoy research, and how to move on as they develop as scientists. Next slide, please. Our main focus is on undergraduates. These are the community college students. We teach them laboratory skills in short internships, and some of them stay on with us to carry on and do authentic research projects. They also have a lot of other experiences, which I'll talk a little bit about later. But because they're budding scientists, we do use them as mentors and role models. And they become role models to the high school students we take in. We work with the City of Monrovia to give students, high school students, internships. This is the Youth Employment Services, the YES program. We take other students in from the local schools, and some of those do research. They participate in our research projects. And our research is not just basic science, not just fundamental cell biology, molecular biology, microbiology. We also have programs that are involved with formulation chemistry. We have students who participate in manufacturing of small devices for sustained drug release, and we really just employ the students in anything that is interesting, that they find interesting. Eventually, the undergraduates and high school students will encounter younger students in our program, and these can be 7th to 9th grade students, and even kindergarten to third grade students. We teach them STEM concepts. One of the pictures you can see there's Elliot, who's working in our laboratory, and he's actually doing a gram stain. So we are teaching them how to do gram stains. And next to him is a young lady who we encountered in our library, and we showed her how to isolate DNA. So these are very basic, simple skills, but it gets them interested in science and in STEM concepts. Next slide, please. The undergraduates, as I said, are our main group we focus on, just because this is what we have the funding for. We take mostly students who are at risk, underrepresented, underserved, underrepresented, and we give them a unique opportunity. We take them to places they've never been to. You can see on the right, we took a group to Catalina Island, just off the coast of Los Angeles. Los Angeles isn't all traffic and smog, as you can see. We can have fun times here as well. But one or two of those people had never been in the sea before. They'd never seen the ocean, and we had them swimming in the ocean. We, as a group, provide mentorship to the students. We help them to apply for other programs. We help them to apply for colleges, and we stay in touch with them. So we become, as you like, knowledgeable friends and friends of the family. So the new experiences are wide and varied, and I can't go into that here. But most importantly, what we do is we prepare our students for applications to research employment for research experiences for undergraduates. These are programs that are funded usually by the National Science Foundation, and applicants are often required to explain their previous research experience. And many students in this local area don't have the opportunity to have any research experience. So we give them something they can talk about. We also teach them how to communicate, and we teach them how to become mentors to high school students and to younger students. In this way, they become role models and near-peer mentors, and they become experts before they even realize it. Next slide, please. And with the undergraduates, they do authentic research. On the left here, my colleague who is a student, she's now, she's at UCLA in West Los Angeles, but she did all the work for this paper that we published in 2020, and it was mostly light microscopy. There's a confocal microscopy image, and electron microscopy using antibodies and immunolabeling. So we don't hold back on teaching students. They get to use all the expensive equipment. They get to learn all the complicated techniques, and they're taught in such a way that they don't realize that these techniques are very complicated. This on the right-hand side is the immunolabeling that we got from the antibody, and it's on vaginal epithelial cells. So in this instance, we're working with the female reproductive system. Next slide, please. As you can see, we go everywhere. We go to schools, we go to trade fairs, we go to job fairs, we go to STEM fairs, we go to our local Halloween party in the city, we go to the library, we mentor younger students, we have students come and visit us, and we run programs for students taught by students. Next slide, please. And if there's anybody in this conference call that is interested in hosting students, I would say do this, host students, and they will not disappoint you. But there's a few things you have to watch out. You have to be careful to make sure they work safely, teach them professional standards. I've had students turn up with very low cut, very high cut tops with bare midriffs and shorts that are so short it's impossible to sit down modestly. We have to teach things like this. We have to teach these students to be professional. We have to provide instruction manuals and protocols, and we provide good communication, and we teach good communication. Next slide, please. One thing we have learned is that we have to be flexible. And in 2020, 2023, for various reasons, we had to close down, and we switched to online activities. We did job shadowing activities online, we did mentoring activities online, and we did a lot of activities outdoors. Students are incredibly innovative, and we can come up with all sorts of interesting things to do. And because of this online activities, we met a whole lot of new people, lots of new school districts. We've got involved with the Boy Scouts of America and a whole lot of other places just working online. So be flexible. Our flexibility is we will teach anybody who has an idea and who can get funding. We can teach you anything that we're doing, from basic cell biology, basic microbiology, advanced microbiology, advanced imaging, manufacturing, biomanufacturing, formulation, analytical chemistry. We have everything in-house. We are autonomous. Next slide, please. And I would say, just as an advert for community college students, they have skills, enthusiasm, and an incredible work ethic. They're good at mentoring. And if you train them well with mentoring and training, you can bring out the best in these students. And they are excellent role models for their peers, and they're good at what it's a modern term called boundary spanning, where they take what they've known back to their communities and they teach their parents and they teach their colleagues. And some of the successes, I think, can be summed up with the things that students have written to me. One said she left school at 15, went back to college later on, and she wrote to me, she said, "I believed academic success was a result of innate ability, not something earned through hard work." She went on to do a PhD on the East Coast, a PhD in computer sciences. Another student said, "At the end of the day, I didn't need material things. I just needed someone who cared, someone who believed that I would be more than what I was when I was brought up. Someone who believed that I could be more than what I was brought up to be." And she is now, she got a bachelor's degree and she's working towards, I think she's going to go back to school to do a PhD. But we have students in-house, we have students remotely, and we just train people. Next slide, please. This is a resource that we use for students, and it's a resource called Pathways to Science for REUs, for other paid internships for STEM students. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. What an inspiring program you all have. Thank you so much. And I must say your slides are beautiful. The pictures did say 1,000 words, so thanks for that. So I'm going to hand it over now to Dr. Allen at NICHD. Lee?
All right. So I am going to try to give you a very broad overview of the many programs that are available through the NIH, and highlight a couple areas that might be of interest to people in the MPT space. And then afterwards, as people have alluded to, some of these links and any information maybe that people ask for in the Q&A can be included in what comes out after the webinar. I will give a quick disclaimer that whatever is published online on a .gov website is the ultimate source to trust. So I would always look at things like eligibility criteria. I'll say that up front. Always look at eligibility criteria for any of these opportunities that you might come across, and pay close attention to that. Many of the pages are links that I might allude to have contact information on them. Please feel free to reach out to that person. That's why their contact info is there. But if you feel most comfortable coming to somebody who's like face you've seen in a webinar, absolutely come to me first, and I can make an email introduction or forward you to the right person that might be good for the program that you're interested in. So I'll start there. And at the NIH, it's basically divided into two parts of being extramural and intramural. So extramural funding opportunities are the outward facing ones where the funding goes to your institution. And then a lot of the intramural programs are those within the NIH where the funding and or the activity happens at a location of the NIH. And so I'm going to try to kind of stay somewhat organized, but there are a lot of opportunities, and I'll, if you have any questions, even while I'm talking, feel free to put them in the chat. There's a main training page. Let's see if I can copy that link. There's a main training page that I'll put in here. And so these are your, what we would call the extramural opportunities. And then there's a training page that has a lot of information for the intramural programs. And unfortunately, there's not just one website where everything is gathered. But I sent you the two main ones. And then there's also a page from my branch, NICHD. And then some people that are interested in MPTs might be interested in coming through the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Disease, or NIAID. And so those are 4 quick links. And so what I'll do, I didn't see many comments in the chat about kind of where people are coming into this webinar, but I'll start with an opportunity that is very wide spanning. It's the NIH Summer Internship Program. And so there's a summer internship program that starts as early as high school. Now that's geographically limited to coming in from somewhere you have to live close to the NIH. And most of those facilities are in Bethesda, Maryland. But they do have opportunities starting as soon as high school to try to pull people in and get people into these STEM programs. And that summer internship program, you basically spend a summer working at the NIH side by side with the leading scientists there. They're all biomedical research scientists, but that includes everything from behavioral and social science through biology and chemistry to physics, mathematical modeling, computational biology, biostatistics. So there are a lot of different areas that you could get involved with. Like I said, the main campus is in Bethesda, Maryland, but there are also campuses in surrounding areas, Baltimore, Frederick, Maryland. There's a campus in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. There's one in Hamilton, Montana, Framingham, Massachusetts, Phoenix, and Detroit. So if you come into this summer internship program, you come in through basically a common application. And then from there, you would reach out to the person whose lab you're interested in joining if you really want to increase your chances of matching with someone. Because what happens when you apply is you enter a database. And if somebody wants a summer intern, they can go in that database and kind of look through all of the applications, but there are thousands of applications. So how you get yourself noticed by someone is you do a bit of research on what you're interested in and the scientists that may be working in that area, and you reach out to them. And then they know who to go and look up in the database to try to make that match with their lab. And I've learned so much about the SIP program recently. And so here's the link to that page. And what's interesting is under that general SIP program, there are also some sub-programs. So for example, the Community College Summer Enrichment Program, only for community college students. This year, they introduced a virtual Summer Opportunities to Advance Research, or VSOR. There's the Amgen Scholars Program. And then some of the institutes and centers have their own summer programs. So there are a bunch of opportunities at the NIH. On that main SIP page, they try to gather all of them. But for example, some of these sub-programs that you would have to contact directly are the NCATS Gaining Research Equity and Advancement in Translational Science, or the GREATS program. There's also NHGRI has a summer program in research and genomics that they call iSpring. There's NIBIB has a biomedical engineering summer research program, a research internship program that they call BSIP. And one of the most educational links that I found was this comparison of the SIP sub-programs, the SIP program in general and the sub-programs. And I just put that link in the chat. And you can see that for this year, the only program that I believe is still open is the general SIP program. And that application deadline is March 1st. But I talked to the person that kind of runs that program, And she said that this opens in November. And so you can apply as early as November, and then it's just basically rolling matching with labs. And the professor or the researchers go and they match students with their labs starting as early as when applications start coming in November. And then some of the sub-programs, like the Amgen program, for example, their applications were due February 1st. So we just missed that. But for, future years, and for telling people about this, what you can also see on this chart is the number of applications in 2022. You have to scroll down a bit to find it. And so it shows the number of applications that came in, and it shows the number of positions that they had. So that can give you a general feel for what the success is of getting in the program and getting matched, and also how large these programs are. Like I said, in the general SIP program, there are thousands of people that apply to this. And their eligibility criteria on the website. They also have a program called the Academic Internship Program, which is like the SIP program, but it happens during the academic year. So there's information on that if you may happen to live by one of the NIH laboratories. And also at the NIH, they have a post-baccalaureate intramural research training award program, or post-bac IRTA. And with that, you can come into this basically after you've graduated college. And some people use this as a gap year, for example, before they go into a graduate or professional program. And what they do during that program is help you, if you have not been accepted yet to graduate or professional school, they also help you through the application process and professional development to kind of figure out what you want to do. And folks can stay in it for, you can stay in it for more than 1 year. I did say gap year, but a lot of times if you've been accepted into a program, people will only stay for a year. And she was telling me that sometimes people do it for a year to figure out kind of what type of research that they like or what they want to do next. And then that next year is spent still doing research in the lab, but also doing professional development and applying to graduate and professional schools. There's also an undergrad scholarship program where it's a competitive scholarship, and it's awarded, and it can provide you up to $20,000 per academic year in tuition, as long as you commit service to the NIH. So you work there during the summer, and then for every year of funding you get for your undergraduate education, you commit to working for a year after graduation at the NIH, which is kind of an interesting scholarship opportunity that I didn't know about prior to looking into this. And so that is kind of the high school and undergrad and post-bac opportunities. And so then when you get into the grad and graduate and postdoctoral opportunities, the summer internship program also applies. There are graduate and professional student sub-programs of the SIP program, one of them being the medical student summer opportunities to advance research, or MSOR. There's a graduate data science summer program. There are all sorts of things happening at the NIH during the summer for all levels of training. For a lot of these opportunities, they have passed for 2023, but there's always 2024. One of the interesting programs that I learned about was this graduate partnerships program, where you can do some of your PhD graduate work at the NIH in partnership with your university, or you can reach out from where you're already a student and apply to do part of your PhD research at the NIH. They also have a postdoc intramural research where you can be a postdoc at the NIH. And then a large part of what people have probably heard about with our fellowships awarded to students at universities are the F series of grants. And that pays for stipend, tuition, and fees. And they have relatively recently passed the ability for the NRSA fellows to request up to $2,500 per budget period to defray childcare costs. And there some numbers for 2022 with like the F30s and F31s. For example, NICHD got 265 applications and funded 73. So that's a success rate of 27.5% to answer the question before someone asked. NIAID also had 481 applications and also funded 73. So that's a 15.2% success rate. So, you know, if you had to think about strategy, NICHD would love to have your applications. And that those F30 programs are what are the, you would apply to essentially this parent F30, which is a fellowship for students. There are two of them. There's fellowship for students at institutions without NIH funded institutional dual degree training programs. I can put links in the chat after I finish talking. And so they're basically F30s, F31s, and those are all on, you can read more about eligibility criteria. I'll put that link back in the chat. So that walks you through what all of these different mechanisms, F30, F31, it's in kind of the second category. And I'm trying not to take up too much more time. So I will also mention some institutions have training grants or T-series, and you can see that on the page I just linked. And then I don't know if there are any postdocs or faculty, but they're also the Research Career Development or K-series, a notable one being a Pathway to Independence Award, where you can get funded as a postdoc on a K99 award. And then when you become a faculty member, it rolls into an R00 award. So that's to kind of help you make that transition from being a trainee into being an independent early career researcher. So with that, I'll let Q&A take over.
Lee, that was really great. Thank you so much. There's so much going on at NIH with all these fellowship programs. So yeah, I tried to capture all the links too, so that you know, we can, and I think everyone's seen that, so we can share those. I'll just mention on the IMPT website, if it's the impt.org, there's a couple different resource centers, and one of them is career and traineeship opportunities. So that's, we will have these links posted there, and I'm sure MCI will have them as well. So you know, if you didn't grab it, they are gathered somewhere. So I wanted to see if anyone has any questions. We can open it up. So I will start to get things going a little bit. I'm just, you know, I'm looking at, you know, the different people that are here, and, you know, it's really exciting just looking at, you know, who is on this right now, people from all over the place. I'm seeing that we have Dominic Kayuri from an undergrad from Kimry in Kenya, and then I recognize other faces as well, so that's fabulous. But what recommendations would you all have to potential applicants, you know, if they're thinking about applying?
Do it. Don't just think about it, do it. But also, I think what Logan was saying earlier is reach out and make contact. It kind of, it humanizes the process a little bit, but it also, you know, it gives you networking, and it might help you ask some questions that aren't maybe clear in some of the materials, or just get some of those questions answered to strengthen your application.
I'll second that, just to say that it humanizes the process. It humanizes not only us, the person you're reaching out to, because we are just people and we want to talk to you about these things, but it humanizes you as well. And it gets us to know you, know your research, and maybe it can help us ask you some questions that can help you pinpoint your research direction or your application more broadly, depending on whatever you're applying for.
One thing I tell students is to apply for anything. The application process is, it's not easy. And the more times you do it, the more material you collect, material that you've written, and it's more material that you can use for something else. So just keep applying. Even if you don't think you want the opportunity, apply and let the people at the other end decide that you're not qualified. Don't disqualify yourself because you think you can't do it, or you're not the right person, or it's too much for you. Just write things. Just write. I heard a story a couple of weeks ago for a fellowship that was being awarded a large amount of money, and there were 15 places. 15 places to be awarded. 10 people applied. I wonder who got the awards. So you never know what's happening at the other end. Always apply. You may find that you've got a unique circumstance that the people reading your application resonate with, and they will say, yes, they're not qualified, but I think we can work with that person. Or absolutely, this person is 100% qualified, the one we're looking for. So let them do the decision. Don't you disqualify yourself. And I heard that you said there was somebody from Kenya. In my past lives, I've actually lived in Kenya. I lived in Nairobi, and I worked at an institute that is now called ILRI. And I went from Nairobi to Yale University because I applied. I had no opportunity, I guess. You know, I was in the other part of the world, and I moved to America because I got a job at Yale University. If I had not applied, I wouldn't have got the job.
That's a great point, Paul. I know I wanted to follow up on that, on Dominic too, because he's curious which, you know, and I think this is for all of you. Do you support e-learning for people? And then also, which of your programs are open to people outside the US? And I'm looking at the clock, and I think we have 3 minutes, right, Heather? Okay.
We can do it.
I'll go real quick just to say that MCI has programs that support e-learning, specifically our like trainee success program. So I mentioned professional development being a piece of that. We've sponsored folks getting workshops in like molecular modeling, like Schrödinger courses. So they are generally research focused, but we do support e-learning and professional development opportunities that include online coursework. So
Great. Lee, did you have?
Yeah, so I mentioned the virtual program, and then postdocs at the NIH can be international students. They're going back to that link that I put in, the research training.nih.gov programs. You can see there's some international research training grants under the T section. It's called a D43, but it's under the T section. And then the International Research Fellowships, FO5. So if you kind of look through our pages, the eligibility criteria are right there, but there are some research opportunities and fellowships and available to non-US citizens or permanent residents.
We have no formal programs. We make things up as we go along. If we get funding, we do it. If we've never done it before and we have enough people who are interested in doing it, we will try it out and see if it works. So e-learning is a possibility. If you've got a fellowship and you want to spend it in the United States and you have a visa, we will host you. So we're very flexible. And that brings me back to our point. Be flexible. Just try things out.
Well, thank you all so much. This has been such a rich discussion. I think we could have gone on longer, but I'm going to hand it over to Heather to close us up.
Thanks, and thank you to all of our presenters and panelists, and to everyone who attended. I think I took my two big takeaways. It's one, just apply, seek out these opportunities, and also we'll give you your first assignment, which is to reach out to us with any questions that you have. You know, anybody on the MCI staff, the secret way that our email is established is our first name and malecontraceptive.org. So now you've got the secret code. So I'm Heather at malecontraceptive.org. You've got Logan at malecontraceptive.org, or you can find our contact information on our website. I know Bethany and Paul and Lee, you can find them as well. As we said, everyone who signed up for this webinar will be receiving a follow-up document with all of the links so that for quick reference. So we'll put those together and send those out. And just thank you. And we really appreciate you being here. And thanks, Bethany, for an excellent job of moderating.
Thank you all. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your days.